All right, I pressed record, so we are now recording. That's it. It's official. We are live. This is the fifth episode. I started calling them episodes, but then that feels weird because it never, I guess you have to have an episode. To season 1, episode 5 of Worker to Worker. It's just me so far having conversations with other workers out there, rank and file members of unions. I'd be down to talk to non-union members, especially ones that are anti-union. That'd be a cool conversation to have. But so far, it's just been me and other union sisters and brothers out there from different unions, different companies, different states. And we're just having conversations, trying to kind of bring to light some of the common struggles that we're having and some of the common fights that we have. I think that there's a lot of things out there in the world that are pushing to divide us, and we need to take a minute to realize that as working people, there's one big thing we have in common, and that's that this shit sucks. So without further ado, we'll kick off this 5th episode. My name is Eric. I'm from UFCW Local 8 in Northern California, work for Safeway Albertsons, and today I'm very excited to have a brother from Denver. This is Tyler. Tyler, why don't you tell people who you are and where you're from? What's up, man?
What's up, dude? My name's Tyler Kondo. I'm from Denver, Colorado. I'm a UPS driver. I've been a union steward. I'm on the UPS safety committee in my building, and I am on the TDU International Steering Committee. So I just met up with you back in Denver in January, I believe, to go on strike with King Soopers workers in Denver. And we also just met back up in Stockton, California to do a Teamsters education conference recently. So we have worked together multiple times. We get along. We always have fun after the official business, and I'm very happy to talk to you today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for taking the time to sit down and speak. Part of the reason I wanted to talk to you is just because the conversations that we have had so far in the events that we've been able to participate in together have been, it's of sound mind that something needs to happen within our union, within the working labor movement, to push the working class kind of out of the situation that they're in. And getting to meet you through TDU, which for those who aren't familiar with the acronym, Teamsters for a Democratic Union. I saw you there. I met you there in Chicago, actually. Got to see you run for steering committee and get elected for steering committee. For me, as a UFCW member, seeing even within TDU, which is a big reason that it exists is because there's like forced democracy like within TDU, and it's a really good example for union members and working people to see what that democratic structure looks like. And you know, when I say democratic, like D word, I don't mean like Democrat like politically. I mean like democracy, like members have a vote, members get a say. Basically, and members in TDU, members stand up at the microphone, and it's not just their vote, it's their actual voice. Like they say what they want to say. I watched a gentleman make some amendments to a proposal wanting to add specific language in there that was more inclusive, and that proposal passed. And you know, I was sitting in the room when that was decided amongst all the members to add that in. That it was crazy to see just what that even looked like, and to see you having a part in that and playing a part of that and being, you know, not only there but actively taking a leadership role within TDU was very inspiring. I'm going to assume that you're younger than me by a good 10, probably 15 years at least. And so, you know, I'm like in this weird like purgatory of like moving into old man phase, but still feeling like a child inside. So like while I like am starting to look more like the old guard, I still feel like very, very new guard within. So to see, and we hear a lot of shit get talked about the younger generation not caring, not working very hard, not wanting to participate, not pulling their weight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like I feel like that accusation gets levied against me. So to get to see and meet you there participating at that level. It was very inspiring. And, I took that back to my people in the UFCW and I was totally glazing TDU. I was just like, oh, dude, this exists, like the Mecca. Basically, this possibility is out there. Real quick, what got you into TDU? Obviously, you said you worked for UPS, which you're a Teamster. What got you into TDU specifically beyond just being a Teamster?
Yeah, thank you so much. And yes, to answer your question, in 2023, UPS built up for a huge contract campaign, national contract campaign all across the country. And my local was not planning on doing a damn thing about it. It was pretty obvious about that. And just exactly to your point of like forced militancy, we held a rank and file meeting. We organized around some of the shop floor leadership that were locally recognized and met up at a library. We had some of our business agents show up and say, stop listening to these people. They're anti-union. You should be listening to me because I'm your union official, not these people. They're just a bunch of stinky truck drivers, right? And
so they came to your actual event. Like they came to your actual event?
Yes, and crashed it. And by the end of the meeting, we had pretty much established the idea like we are doing a 2023 UPS contract campaign, whether you like it or not. And if you'd like to get on board with it, we'd be happy to have you. But if you're not interested, we could not be deterred from our mission. And they chose to cooperate, and so did we. We held an incredibly effective practice picket. We educated members all across the shop floor, and wouldn't you know it, we were able to avoid a strike because my Denver shop was actually able to make it on the national news with our practice picket, right? So
awesome. Yeah, dude, I didn't know it was you guys at the time, but I could have seen that. I was following that as a UFCW member. I was following that, and that's what set me on the path looking to try to find out what the rules around decertification were, because I was like, oh shit, I want to be a Teamster. And it was getting to see you guys out there practice picketing and everything. Now, you mentioned that you got your business agents and in turn your local to eventually come along with you. Was there a number of people? What was the number of people that you had pushing for that? And do you think it was the number that made them come along, or just realizing kind of what was happening on a national scale, that it would be, from a PR perspective, you wanted to be on the right side of history with this one?
Yeah, and we're so lucky in the Teamsters to have some really effective leadership at the top. We're also really lucky to have some really effective leadership on the shop floor, like I mentioned, all across the country. And when all of us work together through collective action, we're able to accomplish so much more, right? And that's how I've gotten in touch with you. That's why we are working with Essential Workers for Democracy to try to push the same type of movement in the UFCW to try to actually get some shit done for you guys from the top down and the bottom up, right?
Yeah, which you mentioned Essential Workers, so we'll give them a quick shout out right now. The Essential Workers for Democracy is for those of you that only participate through At What Cost, which is like the local 8 version of Essential Workers for Democracy. We're like essentially an arm of that organization, and that organization is a lot of the reason that I've been able to participate in as many actions and activities that I've been able to participate in. If you could imagine, so we have a local that takes in $25 million in dues from us every year. If they were to put 10% of that money into educating us, we wouldn't have to like go out and find this information ourselves. And not only do they not provide it to us, they actively try to hide it from us in the most the least, whatever the minimum legal requirement is for them to provide information to us, that's what we get, right? So without the essential workers for democracy helping kind of boost my search for information and answers, it is probably cut 5 years of time off of what it would take for an individual rank and file member to overcome these barriers, overcome these obstacles, and get access to this information. And I'm saying 5 years, and as I'm saying that, I'm actually thinking it's probably closer to a decade, just because like we have so much going on in our regular life. Without like something like TDU to help organize everything it takes to move in a positive direction against all the powers that are trying to hold us back from making that progress, it becomes as an individual, it's just probably 100 times throughout your day where it's just easier to just give up and just do your job, go home, drink a beer, go to sleep, scroll your phone, don't pay attention to anything else, fall asleep, wake up, go to work, drink your beer, scroll your phone, go to sleep. Like, why did you step out of the matrix, dude? Get back in. Having a resource behind you like TDU, and for me, like in UFCW, is becoming the essential workers for democracy. It gives you kind of that touch point to be like, no, this is always happening. This is ongoing. Also, I'm not alone. For I think you feel this. I feel this in my area. And no, shout out to everybody in our group that is moving us forward. Like the idea that I'm locally alone is like less and less every day, but even versus like our local staff, to feel isolated and that this is like an impossible thing to overcome, it's really nice having connections. And sometimes we just chat. Sometimes we're in group chats and stuff where we're sending pictures from different marches or different things that are going on, just to kind of keep pumping our tanks and like keeping it full, that like, yo, this fight's going on. And I think you mentioned earlier, we struck together in Denver, Colorado at King Soopers. Why are you at a King Soopers UFCW strike as a Teamster UPS driver?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought it there. King Soopers workers in Local 7, UFCW, went on strike in Denver this year, and that was how me and you went on strike together. You flew in. I'm so appreciative of that. I think we worked together for 2 weeks, and you're not a Local 7 member, and neither am I. But we worked really hard to maintain that these workers get this contract. And you asked, why do I do this? I grew up in Denver. I grew up, my mom and I, she is a single mother, we went to King Soopers every week. And I don't know about you and your family, but grocery prices have been rising, and the wages of these workers that are stocking these shelves are not rising. And I'm sure you live in California. I live in Denver, and it's a pretty similar story all across the country. The cost of living is going up, but our wages are not going up. And if you and I can't afford housing, how in the hell are our kids going to afford housing? What is the point of even having these jobs if they don't pay a living wage? So yeah, exactly. I saw this fight. I almost went on strike with UPS. I saw what was going on with the King Soopers workers, and so did you. So we met up together. I think that it was like a freak weather situation. It was like 0 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 weeks straight, the whole time we were there.
Very cold.
You're from California. I'm from here. I was pretty used to it. You were not. But we did it.
Yeah.
We were out on strike the whole time. We held the line, and I learned a lot out there. So you asked why. I tried to answer that, but how were we able to support the UFCW Kings Super Strike? In the Teamsters Union, we are allowed to refuse to cross picket lines. We have that protection in our union contract. And I can assure you, you may find this as a similar situation. No one from our local or our national informed us about this. No business agent, steward, or anyone told us that this strike was going on. So I saw what was happening. Me and you are friends. Me and you are brothers. And I think we both converged on an opportunity to empower workers across state and local lines. And I started talking to UPS drivers, truck drivers, all across the local, and we started actually talking about the numbers, how much these King Supers workers were making, what they were asking for. I believe we struck over health coverage, which I think is more important than ever before. We're very privileged to have team care in the Teamsters. And me and a couple of workers decided that this was bullshit. We were going to do whatever it took to help these King Supers workers. And in Article 9 of our national contract, with or without the support of our business agent or steward, we have protection to refuse to deliver struck goods. So we showed up early. We had communications with all the truck drivers who had King Supers on their route. And we made sure that they were informed of their rights and why these King Supers workers were striking. Mm-hmm. And we all decided to pull those stops off of the truck before our start time. I came in off the clock, not in the work area. We had these conversations in the smart way, and we were successful. So not only on the clock were we enforcing our contract, but before and after work, I was showing up to the picket line at my local grocery store and making sure that these workers knew what I was doing on the other side of the dock door, right?
Huge. And that's huge. That builds huge solidarity. I mean, those stories were being told. And for me, I work as a receiver, so I deal with my UPS driver every day. We talk all the time. I'm hoping to get to go to a Teamster meeting with him if he'll sneak me in. But he's not going to cross. We're currently in an extended contract right now. One of our bargaining locals that we are partnered up with, Local 5, has come out and said that they're going to move forward with a ULP charge and has instructed their members to prepare for a strike vote. My union, my Local 8, has not used that same language, but they're bargaining in the same room. So I asked at our general membership meeting if that meant that we would go together, and the response was most likely. So, I mean, we've been talking amongst ourselves to be preparing for a strike regardless of the language that our union's using, because our union uses very corporate friendly language in its updates, talks very happy, like it's very friendly with the company in the way that it speaks to us.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to ask you, I just got done talking, but I wanted to ask you, what did it mean to you to come to Denver and sit out in the cold, shiver your butt off, and see what some cool solidarity, not only between shop floor leaders across different locals, but between leaders on the shop floor in a grocery store and leaders at the top who were actually willing to go on strike in this way.
Yeah, so thank you for asking. I feel like when we got home, it was like all we could talk about, and then it like kind of just like so much stuff happens, and so much stuff is constantly coming at you that you don't take the time to like periodically like stop and reflect back. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that right now. Like as you were asking the question, like all these floods of like, getting to meet Kim Cordova, who's the president of Local 7 out on the strike line, getting to meet Faye Gunther, who's the president of Local 3000 from Seattle out on the strike line. First of all, though I've never met or seen my local president in person. So I have now met more local presidents for other UFCW locals than I have met from my own local. And to me, that says a lot, right? They first shout out to them for being out there, but they wouldn't be strong or have strength without the rank and file, and that's who was out there in the cold 24/7 in those lines. I have never been on a strike. That was my first time experiencing being out on a strike line, and getting to talk to some of the high seniority workers who'd been out there for a long time, and some of the newcomers. There was some brothers and sisters out there. I remember meeting one kid he was like 2 months into the job. Like he was still on like probation. Like he had no reason to show any loyalty to any of those people, but he was out there like striking. And I made the point to I think there was like two of the old timers were standing next to him, and I was like, these people over here, they'll never forget this, that you're out here. Like the credit that you're gaining by standing out here with your brothers and sisters carries into the store when this is all over and this fight ends. You held the line. And to see that like in action, to see that solidarity, that was huge. It was also different because they owned their union. They all felt like a personal ownership of their union, and that's something that's completely missing in our area. So that's something that ownership and that participation, that direct action, like you guys took to even recognize, outside, not waiting for your business agent or somebody on high to come down from their mountaintop and bless you with the action that you should be taking. You guys came together, found out within your contract what actions you could take, and then helped support. And then in your own free time went above and beyond. That to me is, and this is getting like a little philosophical outside of just like working stuff, but like that is what we need as a people, like as a country, is this kind of solidarity, like this cut through the divisiveness that I mentioned at the top of this call. I think that the secret might be in the labor movement. I think it might be the place where all that other shit can kind of be set aside, and this one thing we have in common be the thing that drives us forward and unites us. And it's because I just keep seeing it time and time again. When you're in a Teamsters room, you know that you're in a politically diverse environment, but you don't feel it, and you don't really hear it, and you don't really see it, especially not at TDU and not at this Stockton conference. Like you guys were in deep fucking red chest. You guys are in Northern California, and you had made a comment during the class like, man, I've sure heard a lot of mention about keeping politics off the table. Like this is kind of interesting. But I think it's because of that. I think it's because it's such a touch point for some people. And in this environment, we can not have that be the thing that we're talking about. Now, again, I'm more than happy to have a political debate with anybody. I'm more than happy to speak about my views, but not at the cost of worker solidarity. Not at the cost of overcoming these companies and these corporations. And when you talk about feeling like an impossible fight, getting to fly out to Denver, to another state, getting to meet people from other locals that work for different companies and different unions, but uniting together against that common enemy, it's like the impossible becomes possible. And that's just like a handful of people, right? Like if we can scale this up and continue to build this and continue to scale this, like there's a reason there's real fear in the peasants like getting educated and rising up. And it's because there's so many of us that we could very easily rebalance the scales if we can just get our shit together. And I think that moments like that make me feel like we're closer than it sometimes feels in our day-to-day life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny to see, like you said, a bunch of grocery store workers and truck drivers working together in harmony to try to get the things that they deserve. Um, Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the King Soopers workers in Denver were striking over healthcare benefits and still potentially are.
Yeah,
We
that specifically was a ULP strike for failure to provide scheduling information, and just for legal reasons. I think that's what that specific strike was for. But yeah, they're still there. That 100-day extension that they came off strike for is coming to an end right now, and they are nowhere closer to a deal. In fact,
they
it's going
moved
backwards.
backwards, exactly. So the only reason any of this is going to work is by people like you and me talking about this. Why would any butcher or stalker on a shop floor care about this when they could just as easily go to another job or do DoorDash for $20 an hour? I believe you guys are the ones who make our stocks, our shelves full. And if you guys need healthcare, I think the company and the CEO has the amount of money to pay for that. But it's funny you talked about politics, and here's my politics. You can't afford to retire in the United States. Healthcare is out of control. Do you have kids? Excuse me. Remind me.
3 kids.
Those are 3 kids that you want to get through a stable education, right? So we need to really start thinking about the way that we can make this happen, and why on earth would any politician, whether that be at the federal level, at the state level, or at our local union level, care about your demands if you're just a cranky guy screaming at the back of a union hall meeting, right? It is actually so much more effective to organize around these things. Most of your coworkers are not 100% satisfied with their situation. There's about 50 things that most of us could organize around on our shop floor, but we have all got the excuse of why we wouldn't do that. I am just as busy as the rest of us. I'm sure you hear a little raspy in my voice. I'm a little overworked right now, like you said. I've been traveling and trying to teach some of these workshops, but it truly is effective. And you don't have to be a radical like you and I. You don't have to devote an extreme amount of time to this. You can just meet with a couple of co-workers before work. If you don't mind, I'd like to tell a story that kind of transcends politics. We have a couple of workers on our shop floor that are just as enthused about all these ideas as you and I. And one is a shop steward. I was a union steward at the same time, and our management pulled both of us into the office and showed me a bunch of paperwork to fire another union steward. It's really hard. I don't know. Are you a union steward? I'm sorry. Are you?
I was, but it got taken away for a lack of
No,
loyalty.
I get it. I mean, it's the same as mine. But I I saw what was happening. I talked to the member. He swore up and down that the paperwork was not reflective of his actions that day. It's really hard as a union steward. I'm just a worker. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a politician. I'm just a truck driver. And before my scheduled start time, my boss is showing me this paperwork that says that he can walk this truck driver out today.
Wow.
Fired. So I was freaking out, just as any of the rest of you, I, or any of your viewers would be. And I started calling around to other truck drivers. They were furious just the same way as I was. And actually another truck driver recommended that we should do something. I didn't have any recommendations, even as a steward, but he said, we just need to stand out. And the most vibrant color to humans is the color red. We should all wear the color red, a red shirt to work tomorrow, to show our solidarity. And I reminded him, hey, buddy, our union contract specifically says we have to be in uniform at our scheduled start time. And he said, that's on us. Our other steward has done enough work. It's our time to work. So it was our time. We started making phone calls. We called around to a bunch of truck drivers and let them know, hey, this steward has been fired under false grounds. We want to show our support, but you have to be in your uniform by your scheduled start time. We got a verbal yes from everyone that they understood what was going on, kind of like you're in the emergency row in a flight. And about 16 of us showed up to work the next day, all wearing red shirts instead of brown. There was some people that may have forgotten or they weren't as comfortable, but we had already pre-planned and gotten some red ribbons that they could wear to show and support. Cool. And about 2 minutes before our start time, I announced to everyone, Teamsters, brown up.
Sick.
We all threw our brown shirts on over our red shirts, and no discipline was issued that day.
Nice.
They didn't do anything. As soon as we put our brown shirts on, I went into the office with management. I knew that because I had that solidarity as a steward, I went into my manager and said, I think that the paperwork that you showed me yesterday was incorrect. I'd like you to reprint it for me. And immediately when he pulled it up on the computer, it was different than what he had showed me the day before.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
I asked him to print the paperwork. He kicked me out of the office. I went out and documented everything on my notepad. And by 6 p.m., that manager had called me and the other steward back to reinstate him with full back pay.
Oh,
right?
Nice.
So just exactly to your point, when that steward called my business agent to tell her that he had gotten his job back, she did not even know that he had been fired.
Dude.
Right?
Wow. Well,
so just by wearing red shirts, just by standing together, you can actually make a huge difference. And I told that story at a workshop in Denver as a follow-up to the strike in UFCW 7. And it inspired a couple of young workers my age to start to wear red on Fridays because their union contract doesn't allow them to wear official union gear on the shop floor. So by wearing red all on the same day, they don't need the protection to stand together, right? Just like you and I do.
Shout out to the King Soopers employees in 7. I have seen those pictures of you guys out there in red. That's awesome. We have a very strict dress code in our company, and so we've been trying to kind of think of ways like that. And it's going to be something with ribbons, or even we have to wear black polos, but we could wear like a colored undershirt that you could see, beyond the polo. But that it goes to show, and I think it's about buttons too. And we're getting close to wrapping it up. I have a story to share, and then we'll call it. I promised you 30 minutes, and we're at 35. So thank you for hanging out and sharing all that stuff, brother. I really do appreciate it. Buttons, all wearing red shirts. When you say those like in a vacuum, they sound like zero impact actions. They sound like, first of all, they sound super easy to execute, but they sound like they wouldn't do, like they don't quote unquote do anything, right? It's not like, keying your boss's car or something. So let me just say, there's power in symbolism, and unified symbolism has very strong power. It builds solidarity. Just wearing a union button and seeing other people wearing the same button in your shop, on the shop floor in your stores, builds solidarity. Wearing the same shirt builds solidarity. When we go to the general membership meetings, we are wearing our at what cost shirts, and we're the only members there. And we're not wearing UFCW gear because our union doesn't sell UFCW gear. So we made our own gear. I'm actually wearing, that's the number 8 inside the state of California. Thank you, artificial intelligence. I had to make my own like local 8 gear because it doesn't exist. Stupid. We want to like rock your colors and you won't even let us. But I wanted to say something, especially you made a comment about, and this is a story that I've got that ties into the comment that you made about not everybody needing to be a radical. And sometimes like people that get too close to me, like get into my orbit, they get like pushed away because I'm very intense about this stuff, and I kind of like go off on it like kind of hard, like, hey, you want your union to change? Where were you? Where are you at these meetings? Where are you at these things? You're not doing anything. You think it's just going to change for you? Like, I can tend to get a little too intense, and then I never shut up about it is the other thing. So if like you like to talk about other stuff, like people tend to like not come around me. My wife actually was like, hey, you're talking about the union stuff too much. Like, can you tone it down a little bit? And I was like, yeah, no problem. And then the weekend goes by and she's like, hey, you've been quiet all weekend. Is everything okay? And I was like, dude, you said I couldn't talk about the only thing I think about. So what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? But anyways, about not needing to be a radical. For those of you out there that want to participate and want to get involved, but you don't feel like, you want to go march on the boss or whatever, or you want to stand up to your union rep, or you want to have a confrontation. There's so many other ways you can do it. And this story is from a brother. His name's Chris. He's in my local union, works in my store. I came into my office one day, and on my desk was like a bullhorn, and on the floor was this like stainless steel like pedestal and it was all spray painted black, and it had a wood top, and it was spray painted black, and then it had stenciling in white, and it said Union Pulpit. And I was like, dude, what is this? Like, cool. Like, I'm looking at it, and I might kind of start asking around, like, dude, what's that? What is that union thing in my office? And they're like, oh, Chris brought that for you. So I go up to Chris, and I'm like, yo, what's that? What is that? And he goes, oh, I made that. And I was like, dude, you like welded that steel? He's like, yeah, dude, the thing was like 35 pounds, dude. Like, it can hold Sean O'Brien, 2 Sean O'Briens, dude. Like, it's huge. And my union bullhorn, and he's like, yeah, dude, I made that for you. And I'm like, wow, dude, that's really cool that you made that. And he goes, yeah, listen, some of us are yellers and screamers. Some of us are fighters. Some of us are builders. We all have a role to play, and if we can find out what that is, we'll win. And I was like, bro, what you just said is worth more to me than even that pedestal and that pulpit. That idea that like everybody has something to offer. Like, there's somebody that's good at origami that works in your store. Have them fold a paper goose, and inside the paper goose it says, go to your union meeting. Like, there's so many things that people can do. Like, this microphone right here came from a union member who was listening to these conversations and had said, hey, those kind of sound like shit. I'm having a hard time hearing, like, I want to listen, but every time the volume changes and shit, it's distracting. Can I give you this extra microphone that I have? Everybody has a role to play. Find out what your role is. Your role might just be taking the link to this video and sending it to 5 people you work with. If you think that doesn't have power, you're wrong. This type of stuff's really hard to get out there, and just telling other people that you found something you think they might want to listen to is super important, especially in a lot of people's situations where they're being told straight up by their union reps or straight up by their business agents that barge into their meetings that conversations like this are negative, and that things like this and actions like this and desires to strengthen our union are somehow, some way, the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. The reason we started putting this stuff online is so that you can come and see for yourself. Instead of taking what somebody's telling you not to do for granted, why don't you just look at it and see for yourself? I don't think there's anything worth hiding. I don't think there's anything that we've talked about today that would do anything to anybody's union other than make it stronger, because it would lead to a member participating at a higher level. And that's what we need from as many people as are willing to do so. That's all I have to say. Do you have something to close it down with, Tyler? I know you like to shut it down, dude, but you've been doing a lot of classes, so...
Yeah, just really quick, to leave you all with the idea. I'm sure anyone watching this video right now is probably saying to themselves, wouldn't it be so nice if there was someone on my shop floor doing something like this? And it exactly to your point, it can be as simple as wearing a red ribbon on Friday. It can be as simple as going bowling or going to Applebee's or whatever after work to hang out with your coworkers on a cheap happy hour and goof off and talk crap about work. And in my experience, and I think in your experience too, the most effective thing has been communicating with our fellow workers around us and sympathizing in our similarities rather than our differences. So I really appreciate you inviting me to talk today, and I can't wait until we see each other in Chicago this November. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, that's coming. We'll do it again. Thank you again for your time, brother. I appreciate it. For those of you out there that might want to have a conversation like this, just hit me up. If you know anybody that would be interested in talking shit about their boss on mic or not, just hit me up. Let's have more conversations like this. Let's spread the word. I think this is how we build union strength and solidarity, especially across state lines, local lines, and company lines. I think we can wrap it up with that, man. Thank you for your time. I will see you soon. I appreciate you, my man. Solidarity. Later, brother. All right, that was Tyler. Ladies and gentlemen, another episode of Worker to Worker. I wrapped the other one out without closing it down, and I feel bad. I was so excited to be talking to Darren there, and so I hung up. But a really good conversation with the Teamster, who's also a member of TDU. I highly recommend you guys check it out. If you haven't looked into Teamsters for a Democratic Union, do so. They've got a great blueprint that we can all follow in our unions, and big ups and shout out to the Essential Workers for Democracy. That's exactly what they're doing, and they've helped us here at Local 8 at What Cost execute on a lot of that stuff. And it's the platform that we believe our union on an international level should be building on. So that's our next stop. Thanks to everybody who's listened this far. Please like, please subscribe, share this video with anybody that you can. This is another episode of Worker to Worker, episode 5. I'll see you on episode 6. Bye-bye.